In this video, we are driving the brand new 2026 Formula One car made by Race Sim Studio for Assetto Corsa. We're going to delve into it, talk about it, analyze, and enjoy. I've seen it, it looks good, but now we're going to drive it. So, little sound test there in the garage, just trying to see how the car sounds. Now, we are at Qatar, which of course is the real-life Grand Prix this weekend. I thought it'd be interesting to run a bit of a comparison in terms of the pace I do. Now, we're going to test this at a couple of circuits in this video, just to see how everything handles. Now, let's talk about these new up-and-coming F1 cars. Now, there's a few things which are important. The most notable is the cars are getting smaller and lighter. The weight is coming down by approximately 50 kilos. They're also getting narrower and shorter to try and make them a bit more nimble and racy. Also, on the engine side, the V6 is going to be simplified by removing the MGUH, which essentially means the MGUK will have a higher role, a more protagonism in terms of power delivery. And because of the removal of the MGUH, which is the most expensive part of the engine, which is kind of a cost to entry barrier for a lot of smaller manufacturers, it means we're going to see the return of turbo lag because the delivery won't be as instant. So it's going to change the way the cars race, drive, feel, sound, and also they're going to look quite different as well, because you might see the wings are also reprofiled. The front wing is much more a la pre-2008 style F1 car, so narrower and kind of inside the front tyres, and just generally small other visual tweaks. The best way to describe it, really, the front and the back are like 2008 cars, and the middle of the car, the central area, is currently how we still have, but the ground effect is going to be considerably reduced. So let's get into it. Going to start off our first lap of the day. No idea what to expect, but I can already feel way less downforce, although it is a default setup on, a set of medium tyres. I've got the track set to maximum grip, so we can't do much more on that front. You can definitely feel the performance is considerably less in terms of downforce. The cars don't feel as planted to the ground. Power delivery feels the same so far. I can't feel much turbo lag. I do have, quite low modes. I'm not using overtake. This is literally my first timed lap with this mod, so I'm just finding out for the first time as we get the back end all crossed up. Top speeds look pretty good. Of course, we've got I wouldn't say the new DRS system, but the DRS replacement system, which I believe is called the X-Wings, which they're bringing in. I believe it's the X-Wings. It could be another letter. Quote me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember all the changes off the top of my head for 2026. But basically, it's not just the rear wing that moves. The front wing also moves as well. So it's going to make the cars very, very quick on the straight. And the idea is to actually remove DRS, or the concept of DRS, for the races. So essentially you can open the wings all the time when you're behind in race trim. Either way, that's all going to be, confirmed, re-evaluated, and, crossing the I's, dotting the T's in the contracts soon. So for now, it's all still, I guess, part speculation. But already, I will admit, it feels decently drivable. I also do quite enjoy Qatar, so this is quite a fun circuit to drive. We'll get this lap done, and then we'll make a few changes and, crank it up. I can feel a few times that I've hit the brakes in the rear, wants to overtake the front. So that's something to look into in terms of the setup. But yeah, that corner there, that's easy flat with the modern machines, even in race trim, but nowhere near flat with this. So we're going to have to see if we can make that happen. Let's see through here. Full pelt, full speed. First one's flat. Second one's flat. third one is not. And this one definitely isn't, so we'll scrub a bit of speed away. Right, final corner. I can feel the rear overtaking the front again when you hit the brakes, so it does feel delicate. That's the first thing I'm noticing. Up to the line. 128.6. FP1 has just finished, by the way, so I can actually compare this to some lap times, just to get a baseline, really. I've essentially just fast-tracked a quick setup, you know, and just done a very quick change, just to kind of get the car into qualifying spec and see how it feels. Now, I want to note, FP1, Leclerc just now did a 121.9, so the time difference is pretty big because, you know, in real life F1 they're nowhere near pushing flat out in FP1 anyway, so it would kind of align with the time we've done. Anyway, for this one we are going to run maximum power. So here we go. We're going to get this started. First off, let's look at the top speed, and you can see we're just climbing like crazy. 330 almost as we top out. Now we have to brake a little bit earlier. Back end a bit loose. We just don't have that same level of downforce. That ground effect is not sucking the car down to the ground anymore. You can see out of turn 2 we also ran wide. Just having to wait a lot longer to pick up the throttle. Through the hairpin. Low speed feels about the same. You can feel that little bit less weight in the car. Doesn't feel as sluggish, but then there's a lack of downforce, so you're kind of still going the same pace. That's still not flat. That's a big surprise. And then again there, just understeer kicking in as we light up the rears. Right, let's see through here. That's our track limits, but we go flat also through there. I had to take a massive lift through that one on my days. That wasn't too bad. The right side tyres are more cooperative. Of course, the lefts get battered around it. Final corner. And up to the line we go. A 125.3. So it's an improved time, but definitely a lot slower. So now we go to Silverstone, and this should be interesting for a couple of reasons. Now, the main one, this track is interesting because it's a similar profile to Qatar in the sense that there's a lot of high speed, you know, what are usually flat out corners, which may not be. So I'm kind of keen to see how the car performs. So let's see, let's get the lap underway. We'll knock the battery mode into low and just try to get a baseline understanding of where we're at. So, out the last corner, and the lap is now underway. Turn 1, flat, here we go. Easy flat, no drama, so turn 2 should be more of the same. Down to 4th and then 3rd for turn 3. Try to open up turn 4. Back on the gas. And then we open up both front and rear wings. Down the Wellington straight. And then back on the brakes into Brooklands. Car responding pretty well so far. Through Luffield, definitely feeling a bit of understeer there. Lack of downforce maybe. On the exit, using all the curb as we head onto the old pitch straight. Now, Cops. I will take a little lift here. Actually, no. I turned in, felt pretty good. Now for the S's. That's all flat. Now the back end's trying to take the front a little bit. Ah, there it goes. Definitely feels like the rear's a bit more sensitive at high speed, and you need to really have that rear end dialed in. Now for this one, I've made the same changes as Qatar, just trying to see what it's like in a proper qualifying setting. So we're going to crank up the engine. A little bit harder there, running full engine power. And there's another rear slide. Luffield's a little bit wide again. Let's see if Cops is flat. This time in 8th gear. Oh wow, no way, nowhere near Nowhere near. So now we're seeing a bit what we saw in Qatar through Stoke. Yep, look at that, just having to wait. I mean, the front is melting off, so there is that as well. Finish line a bit further down. Let's see, 1 minute 30.7. Wowza. I want to stay at about 5 seconds off real life, so yeah. Now for this, I'm going to quickly run you through the setup menu and kind of make a few changes in real time for you guys to see how the new menu looks with these cars. Now, for this one, we are going to go for some C5s, which might overheat. So I'm going to put some pressure in on the fronts. Well, actually, I'm going to go to 21 on the fronts. I'll put the rears on 18, and that should hopefully keep us okay. For the fuel, I'll leave it at 10. I've already got the engine map set to high, so maximum performance delivery. Electronics. Now, you can see here we've got override, which I'm guessing is overtake. I was using quali just now, which is the highest one available. There is no MGUH mode with these cars because it's been removed, so all we have is the MGUK. So we'll go for no deploy on the outlap. I've got the engine brake set to 9, which is what I usually run. Aero. Now the aero config, we've got the early concept or the current concept. From what I can tell, very minor visible change. I can't really see a difference, to be honest with you. Now the wings is interesting. We have an offset, and these are the default ones. I feel like I'm struggling on the rear, so I'm going to go up on the rear. Now, interestingly, it goes in jumps of 5, so you have to be very decisive. You only get 5 value clicks, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 4 actually, so you get 4 options, and I'm going to go +3 on the front. So a very high downforce config. For the brakes, I was on 56. I'm going to go 57 and see how that feels, and I think this is the key thing, brake migration. I think this might help the way the car, performs on the back end when I'm trying to brake and the back end's overtaking the front. But I want to see if I can do it without having to mess with it too much, because ultimately it's quite a tedious setting and something I'm not too familiar with. I don't have a lot of experience with, and I could be making things worse. So hopefully 57 brake bias does the trick. Now for the drivetrain, again, you've got quite a bit of customizability here in terms of the diff levels, which is quite good. I do like it generally. I think on the entry, I might just go up a little bit so the car's a bit more stable. And also on mid, I'm going to go up by 1 as well. Suspension alignments, I'm going to keep this default for now. We're not doing that sort of video where we're trying to beat a pole lap and go for the maximum time. I'm trying to get something that works and feels stable. Now, again, same story for the suspension. What I will do here, I will lower the ride heights a bit because Silverstone is quite a permissive circuit. The curbs are relatively flat. So we'll go for 50 on the rear and 25 on the front. And then we've got the dampers, which are still the same as most. So to call some mods out there. So now this feels a little bit more intuitive on the outlap. But let's see if it translates to the push lap. So same mode, quali mode on the MGUH. Oh, sorry, the MGUK. Underway then. Quite a bit of understeer out of the last corner as we get things started. Going to hold 7th gear. We have a bit more wing on the car, of course, which is going to help. Up to 8th now. This time the car gets stopped exactly how you want it. On the front, which is what I'm looking for. Lots of traction, just planting it on the way out. Could have gone a bit earlier there. Only 1 purple mini sector, but we're purple overall, because that mini sector is where the mistake was. Lots of grip through Brooklands, and into Lovefield the front bites in exactly how we want it. So this feels good. This feels more natural, or at least what the current cars feel like. Cops, I'm going to hold 7th. Oh, nowhere near flat. The engine mode is too powerful. The downforce can't keep up. Into the S's. Try to set up the last one here as best as possible, but the front left does give out a little bit, so maybe a bit more front tyre pressure adjustment necessary, but generally a better lap as we now head into Stowe. The front left has had time to recover from the S's, and it grips up enough to give us performance. And now on the brakes into the last chicane. In 3rd gear, having to wait to pick up the throttle there out the last corner. Up to the line. and it's a 29.0, so a decent improvement. So for the last track of the day, I want to do another test, and we are at Istanbul, the Turkish Grand Prix. Something random, something different. I want to see how it feels around one of these circuits and just kind of get a definitive early opinion. Now we're going to go for balanced on the battery mode here, and we're just going to see how the first lap, first impressions feel, and then we'll go for a push lap on softs. So turn 1, braking at the 100-meter board, downhill braking zone. The grip kind of falls away, so you have to be careful on the way in. You get a lot of understeer. Now uphill towards turn 3. Oh my god, the back end just went again, a bit like in Silverstone. And I've got the brake bias towards the front, so it just kind of highlights, you know, you don't have that ground effect, which when you're in medium or high speed or medium high speed, it just sucks the car down. You don't have that anymore. So far, I will admit, one thing I'm very surprised, I can't really notice the turbo lag that much. Anyway, with that done, let's try again, and let's try and get a decent lap on the board. So we'll go through turn 1, brake at the 100, get our apex and keep it on the track. And we'll just try and see if I can keep the car a bit more stable on the way into turn 3 here. So a bit of a straight line entry. You have to let the downforce kick in, and then you can start to throw the car. In the low speed, it doesn't really matter. There's not a ton more grip, I'd say, compared to the modern cars, but the lesser weight does help and make the car a bit more nimble, a bit more responsive. Car feels very on the front through there. Had to be careful with the throttle. Now, is this flat out? Oh, no, it isn't. Not quite. Not quite. We're gone. We're gone. Not quite flat. Very interesting. This is why I wanted to test this track as well. Right, we'll try one more time to get a lap on the board. If not, we'll switch to the qualifying adjustments and just look to go quick. Little confidence lift. Very slight, but you just need that little lift for the car to work. Now into the chicane. Spot the 100. Fourth gear, this is fairly high speed. Aggressively downhill, then it levels out. You can use all those curbs around the corner. As we now open the X-Wings, the double DRS, whatever you want to call it. And now just spot the 100 again. Car stops really well. This is where, again, the lesser weight makes the car a little bit more nimble through these sorts of corners. And then up to the line, a 129.4. Right, anyway, we're going to do our last sweat attempt, fastest lap of the day. This one will have no commentary, so you guys can enjoy the engine sound on the best lap. So let's get to it. Yeah, these cars are a real challenge. Proper challenge. Really tough to, you know, get in the window. The lack of downforce is super apparent. Oh my days. What a challenge. You think you're safe and then suddenly it just gets you. There we go, 125.6. The car is a massive challenge to drive. And I think, you know, we did a good job showing off some different circuits. We're going to jump into some closing thoughts. I really enjoyed it. It's very different. The main thing that stood out to me, downforce, you know, the current cars with ground effect, the faster they go, the more they get sucked to the ground. We don't really have that anymore. There's still going to be some ground effect, but it's going to be vastly reduced, and you can really notice it. So, the dependency for downforce comes from the wings. And as you can see, the cars are narrower and shorter, and the front wing is smaller than the current one. So generally, the downforce level is also reduced. I'm sure they'll do some tricks to basically make up the downforce elsewhere, seeing as it's going to get restored from underbody downforce to over the car downforce. But even still, it's noticeable that the car doesn't quite grip in the same way. The tyres are also a little bit smaller as well. It's all kind of adding up, those small bits, to just having a bit more of a nervous car. Now, the weight kind of counters that a little bit, but at the same time, it doesn't take away from the nervousness of the car. And I think that's what they're trying to achieve, and I kind of felt that throughout the video. Much like the kind of early 2000s cars, when you watch them, they go fast through corners, even though they're actually slower than the current cars now, because they're just lighter, nimble, more aggressive and more nervous. And I'm definitely getting that vibe from here. I didn't really get any turbo lag, and generally the baseline experience is quite similar to the current cars, but you just have those kind of elements which you can notice where you have to be careful with the downforce because it's not the same anymore. So I really enjoyed it. You guys can check these out down below in the description. In the meantime, I want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section. Have you tried the mod? What are your thoughts on it? I'd love to hear what you think. We're going to make plenty of content with this car, guys. The next one will be hopefully a race once we have, you know, skins for all the cars and possibly a Cadillac skin as well to do basically a 22 car grid, which would be pretty sick. And we'll do that very soon. Also, I want to do a comparison video showing off this car versus the current cars and kind of visually and also in real time compare their pace and see how they perform, which should be pretty cool. So yeah, guys, comments down below. What else do you want to see? I'm going to leave all the mods, as I mentioned, linked in the description. Like the video, subscribe. Let's try and hit over 2,000 likes on this one, guys. A very objective target, but if you do it, it really helps the video and this sort of content on Assetto Corsa on my channel. As always, a massive shout out to the members of my channel for supporting the videos, and also check out the 2 videos on screen, guys, for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next one very soon. Anyway, ciao.